Hi, welcome to the Digital and Cloud Summit. I'm Lauren Herlock with Cloud for Utilities, and today we're in conversation with Juan Corredor, Open International's Chief Technology Officer. Hi, Juan. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Of course, happy to be here.
What advice do you have for young people who want to get into tech?
That's a really good question, and I get it a lot from friends, from family, and from people that really just want to get in. I think the best advice so far, and especially today, is to just do it. There are just so many resources out there nowadays to learn computer science, to learn programming. It doesn't have to be a college course anymore. In fact, I've seen English majors that are excellent coders. There's an English major that I know that is just a top level security expert. So,
oh wow.
So yeah, so you can do it. I mean, there are a ton of different online resources. I mean, it just takes a couple of, either YouTube videos or, one of the top e-learning platforms to get started. But I think, more particularly to get into that world, which I think is now easy to get into. It's just really that drive to take those courses and to find your best way of learning.
Yeah.
First, learn the fundamentals. And then you can focus on a specific area. I mean, it's a field that's gotten pretty big. So it's important to at least, learn the basics, learn what you're talking about, and then build on that with something really specific. And I think the last thing I would say is personal projects. I mean, personal projects. Even if you're a college student and you're listening to this, or you're an aspiring college student, the most important thing that you look at when you're hiring is someone that has drive and someone that is truly interested in the topic. And that means that they've gone home and they've built something. They built a little app, they've done a little startup, they've participated in a hackathon.
Right.
That is really cool. And I think people who are hiring, I mean, I would put money on it. I mean, if you have personal projects under your belt and you really sound like someone that's interested and that has a lot of energy behind it, you're going to get hired. You're going to get hired by whatever company you want.
Oh, what good advice. I've heard great things about your software and especially your UI and UX. So I want to ask you about some of it. How does Open SmartFlex change things for your customers?
Also a really good question. I think there's a couple of aspects that I think are differentiating. We're in a world of either solutions that are a bit antiquated or some of the big players in our space that essentially just have built an ecosystem of purchasing different solutions, right? And integrating them. And the issue with that, I mean, it's not particularly bad, right? But the issue that tends to happen is the fragmentation of information and too many integrations, even within a single solution, right? So you buy a product and you say, I bought one thing, but in fact, you bought 6 things. And now you have to monitor whether or not those things work together, right?
Right.
At Open, we built our solution from scratch. This has been our bread and butter, for over 30 years. It has a single database and it covers CIS, field service, MDM, and a self-service portal. And we have all the relevant information in one place. That means that it's information that can be accessed by BI tools. That means that you have fewer integrations to really work with to get that information out with your OMS, DMS systems, head-end systems. You're really connecting to fewer platforms, and ultimately that leads to less operation work, right? You don't want to spend a ton of money on operation. And the other thing that is important is you're not sacrificing on scope of functionality or usability, right? You have a single package that was built to work together. And in fact, I would argue that it's more usable because all of these pieces are working together and a lot of your staff are working under one solution. And in many ways, you're reducing that friction between areas, right? I believe technology is amazing for cultural change. You can bridge together divides inside your company by having everybody use one system, access the same information, and you can make hybrid roles. So I think that's the big thing is a single database. I think we've done a great job on our usability, and we continue to focus on it. I know that's been sort of the downfall of CIS and other core platforms. That's a huge focus for us today, and we keep driving it. I think ours looks really great, and we've heard really good industry feedback on it. And finally, you can offer, our background is in the utility space, but when we first began, we worked with a lot of telecommunication companies that also had a utility offering and energy, water, gas offering on top of internet services or telephone services, and the other way around. Some utility services are also providing municipal internet, for example, and we have a few customers running like that. We also have customers that have offered financial services, financing of electric devices, gas stoves, that kind of stuff. So that there's sort of a trend of that happening now, and it's kind of been the rebirth of this, where you have utility companies trying to offer these revenue adding services to the product, and need basically a software solution that can bill and manage and manage accounts for, manage customers for, not just the basic stuff, but also these new offerings. So our backgrounds worked really well for this, and that's how we've begun to evolve quite a bit, is to have this not just cover the basic core functionalities, but also use our solution. And it's been doing that for many years to configure new products and services that are non-traditional, just through configuration, just by using our tool. And that's what it's been doing for a long time. So the scope goes a little bit beyond the utility scope. And that's how you can offer new value, come up with new business plans that generate revenue for you, which is a problem that utilities are going through today.
I mean, more revenue is more net revenue, right? So
yes, you need new revenue. You need the technology not to block you from emerging business strategies or changing legislation, right?
Yeah.
So if a law changes that allows you to offer a new service to your customers, say broadband, you don't want to sit there and be limited by that and say, oh man, we can't offer broadband because now we need to purchase, start a whole process to purchase. If your CIS already has that level of flexibility, then by the time that happens, you're already a step ahead, and you just need to configure, products and services and go with your new strategy.
That's great. So you mentioned your CIS system. We just heard about your new cognitive CIS. Can you tell us where that came from? Can you give us the backstory?
Sure, Lauren. So we have a partnership with IBM, and we've sat down with them. And as you know, as I think our listeners to this know, IBM is a leader in artificial intelligence, right? Not just IBM Watson, but also Cloud Pak for Data, which is their solution, which is essentially their neural network offering, right? To create insights based on the hidden data of your utility. So we sat down with them and we said, okay, how do we bring that level of insight into the operation itself, right? So not just, analytics for analytics' sake, not just BI, business intelligence, where we're looking at, what happened in the past and looking at it through some pretty reports and looking at our KPIs, but how do we have, continuous artificial intelligence and add that to our day-to-day, not just have the directors and the VPs are looking at that kind of data, but have everyone in the organization take advantage of insights, kind of proactive actions based on insights. So we realized that by working closely together and by essentially embedding our applications together, we could have a single offering that we call Cognitive CIS, which is that, the Open SmartFlex CIS, and a lot of those IBM Watson and Cloud Pak for Data tools kind of working together as if they were a single deployment, which is sort of what I was referring to earlier, right? Which was, bring things that are bundled together that are ready to go, and try not to, especially in this cloud-ready world, try not to integrate, a million different solutions and a million different clouds, because what's going to end up happening is there might be a little bit of a hidden cost, right? When you're moving information from cloud to cloud, that's not free. So
right.
When we sat down with IBM, we said, look, we have a way of adding cognitive information into the CIS. We have a way of doing it where our applications are embedded. So we have a way of getting to the market really nicely. So what can you do with it, with this tight integration and this cognitive information? Well, our first focus is micro segmentation for customers. So we want to predict if a customer is going to default on their next payment or not pay their next bill, or if a customer might be interested in X or Y offer. So, for example, in what I was just talking about, utilities that offer broadband, or just something more basic. Your utilities have a budget billing plan. How relevant is this for your different customer base? And having that straight on screen for your CSRs, and not just that, but having a set of rules that uses that micro segmentation to send alerts. So the customer immediately gets a text message that says, "Hey, look, we can see that you might have problems in the future paying your bill. Are you interested in this budget billing offering?" And having this all happen in a completely automated workflow,
Wow.
which is what we call smart workflows.
Wow.
So by putting this into the operation, we think that there's some really cool things you can do. And of course, there's a deeper conversation on the technology behind it, but I think that's the big value add of this partnership.
Yeah, that sounds like totally game changing. So where do you see utilities' perspective of the customer experience going in the future? And additionally, where do you see utility customer experience going?
Right, good question. And I think, so from what I've seen, there's kind of a two-part answer to this. The first is that a bit of a warning. I have seen utilities come up with ideas that might overcomplicate the customer experience, right? Where it's almost like quantity and not quality of different customer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
As in, we're trying to offer the way to get to a good customer experience is by offering 1,000 different channels, right? And 1,000 different, messages. And I don't think that's the approach, right? I do think omnichannel is key, right? We want to communicate with customers in the channel that they prefer at all times. Mm-hmm. But it's not about, as many interactions as possible and as complicated interactions as possible. The idea is that the customer interactions that you set up are really clean and are really, really simple to navigate for the customer through the channel of their choice. I think that's the key. I think that should be the key focus. And I really recommend, anyone who's listening to this that has decision-making in utility to really focus on those clean interactions. Now, which way is it going to go? I think we're all moving, we're all taking the example of Amazon, right? And companies like Amazon that have exactly that. I mean, if you have any type of interaction with Amazon, whether it's through chat or through a phone call, it's excellent, right? And it's almost like they know what your needs are as you're calling it, and they just get to the point really quick. Mm-hmm. That's where I think it's going to go. And you're going to need the technological tools to get there. I think analytics are what I was talking about just now. I think is a really strong approach, is to really understand the profile of your customer so you can have personalized experience. I think having an omni-channel way of communicating with your customers is key, whether they prefer chat, phone calls, letters. You need to know what their preferred channel of communication is so you can contact them. And I think finally, be proactive. I mean, one of the best experiences I've had with a utility was really simple. Is my power went out, and within 2 seconds, I received a text message, your power went out. It's going to come back in 30 minutes, which is really, it sounds so basic. And it sounds like it's not like this insane, mega creative thing, but it made me really happy. For me, it was, so simple to just know that they're working on it. And now I have a great experience and I have peace of mind. So I think a mix of all those things is where the utilities customer experience is going.
Oh, that's great insight. What do you think the consequences are if utilities fail to innovate their customer experience specifically? What do you think that would do to their business and their mandate?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know as public services. It's hard to know what route that might take. I will say this though. I mean, if you think of taxis, those kind of seemed like a business that was there to stay, right? And a couple of companies with some really good customer experiences were able to really shake that up. So it's really tough to know. I mean, those companies that replaced taxis definitely have had legal struggles, but ultimately their superior customer experience has shown that even governments and regulation will prefer that over the traditional space. So maybe the situation is not extremely dire, but we should all look at taxis and say, let's not be like taxis.
Yeah. Let's not go the way of the yellow cab or the phone book for that matter. So speaking of the future, where do you see open going in the next 10 years?
So good question. And I think it's relatively simple to explain. I think our focus keeps to be in the utility space, and we want to do what we do well. You know, we don't want to expand and start, you know, expanding our offering and start offering a million things. We want to have do our best job to do the best we can on the CIS, field service, MDM, and portal offering, where it's just very easy to implement, very easy to have these solutions together and have a great user experience for all of these. Really, really focus on the utility space and just revolutionize those core systems in terms of simplicity, in terms of implementation time and upkeep, right? We want those things to be simple. And I think historically they haven't been, right? So I think the next 10 years, we want to be recognized as a brand where, you know, you hear the name and you say, all right, those guys signify simplicity and flexibility, right? Where you can get these things up and running and you could start also offering added services without having to worry about it. And these guys really shook that space up. And that I think is our vision in the product team of.
It sounds like you guys are really focused on the future and your customer experience and just really keeping laser focused. Juan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the Digital and Cloud Summit.